I hate when YouTubers think they need to give their entire life story before getting into a video, but real quick, I think it's important to lay the groundwork here that I'm not an MCU hater. I own almost every movie, and nor am I honestly the world's staunchest defender of it. I like it when it's good or when I believe it's good, and I don't like it when I believe it's bad. I have not hated on MCU Phase 4 as much as a lot of people. I end up really liking some of the shows like WandaVision and even Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a couple of the movies like Thor I really actually enjoyed, and same with Doctor Strange. And we're getting to the point now where X-Men is a bit of a conversation topic, and it's been a little bit of a concern for a long time. We talked about this in the past with Marvel Studios producers saying that the name X-Men itself was outdated. This was something that Victoria Alonso, the Marvel Studios EVP of production, had said, saying that I don't know where the future is going, and this was when promoting the Captain Marvel home release. It's funny that the people call it the X-Men. There's a lot of female superheroes in that group, so I think it's outdated. And this kind of sparked a big thing. We talked about this a while ago, where it was one of those things where it was just kind of seen as silly because everybody's so obsessed with this stuff, like gender, sexual orientation, race, religion, all of this. It's like more important than the humanity of these characters. I'm sure the word humanity is offensive to somebody because it has the word man in it. It's just funny to me. And we talked about this, and also how the tentative title was supposedly going to be The Mutants. And this was kind of where it stopped for a long time. People were thinking, okay, well, maybe this is all just a misunderstanding. It's going to go away, and eventually they'll get better, right? I mean, they're clearly, it can't be as bad as this one supposed statement was, and maybe it was just out of context. Well, it's getting not better. It's getting a little worse going on, because as Phase 4 of the MCU has gone on, although I have liked a lot of it, there have also been a lot of things that the kids would call mid, and also a lot of problems with Phase 4 that are not heading in a great direction for the X-Men and for mutants themselves. Now, I'm going to assume that you either have seen Miss Marvel or don't care. I fall into the latter category. I just don't really care about this show very much. I never did. But in Miss Marvel, that was your spoiler warning. Don't yell at me. They reveal that Kamala Khan is actually a mutant in this timeline. Now, it's not the biggest deal in the world to me. Things have changed, such as Tony Stark being the developer of Ultron instead of it being Hank Pym, right? There are differences in the MCU where they make sense to the story. But what's weird to me about this is that, again, I'm assuming you've seen now Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I'm going to say something about it. In Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, they straight up reveal mutants, the existence of them, and Inhumans, but in an alternate universe, an alternate reality timeline, where they show Doctor Strange from the normal Marvel timeline, what they're calling 616 apparently in the MCU, visiting this other timeline where the Illuminati exists, and running across Charles Xavier, Professor X, who was a mutant, running across, of course, Black Bolt, who was revealed to be an Inhuman. So they did show Inhumans and X-Men in this, which makes me wonder why Kamala Khan is not an Inhuman like she was in everything prior to this. That was one of her just core tenets. Miss Marvel was an Inhuman. At least the Kamala Khan one, not Carol. But when we kind of get into this stuff, it's just odd to me because they're changing so much, and this is before it's even come out. We have the controversy around the name. We have changing Miss Marvel's background. We have the whole thing with Professor X existing in another universe, but not this one, and it being Patrick Stewart, at least so far. But now, of course, there's even more tentative controversy around this, assuming this is true, because this all builds onto a rumor that we're talking about today that was actually posted on Twitter by MCU Direct. This is a place on Twitter that has gotten some information right. It's worth noting, I am not sure on the validity of everything that they've talked about, but they actually do have their own website, which is thedirect.com, where they have a story posted about this. If you'd like to read more, that's going to be in the description down below, because some people were expecting there to be some more things about X-Men in the, in the Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con panel that recently happened. And the reason I didn't talk about Comic-Con that much was because, for me, not that much happened. You know, there were some things talked about that we already knew existed. That was mostly it. There wasn't a lot for me to discuss here that was new. I was hoping for X-Men like everybody else, but it's interesting because they didn't really get into that. And what's interesting about this is this kind of leads to the new rumor with X-Men that contractual obligations with the previous cast are actually going to affect when this comes out. Now, we know that they did. Some people are going to say when Fox was acquired by Disney, those contracts go away. They don't stay. You know, it's a new company. That's actually not always true. A lot of the times when you take on a previous company and either purchase the company or absorb it into your own, you are legally obligated to fulfill that company's contracts. That's also why a lot of times, companies that go bankrupt, they'll look for somebody to pick them up. A lot of times they have to pick up some of that debt with that company. And when it came to Fox, it's interesting because we already saw them have to honor a couple of contractual obligations. It was pretty obvious at the time that Disney did not really care about or want to release Dark Phoenix, nor did they want to release New Mutants. They were also very heavy-handedly interfering, reportedly, in Dark Phoenix, and that's part of why it turned out the way it did. The rumor here is that there actually are contractual obligations that still need to be honored with the original Fox X-Men all the way up until 2025. Quote, despite the introduction of mutants at the end of Ms. Marvel, there's no mutants in Phase 5. I know why there's no mutants. I know this is going to take a while. There might be individual mutants, there might be other characters that show a certain interest. The reason why is a contractual situation with the original Fox stuff is going to be in effect until 2025. So, if they don't want to use those actors that, are under contractual obligation, to use for those parts, such as, of course, one of my favorite actors who is out there, widely renowned, of course, for his part in Prometheus as David and Alien Covenant. Nobody cared about those movies except me. Michael Fassbender, playing Magneto, that's an example of a contractual obligation that could still exist. I don't know which ones do or don't. And whether this remains true is, it's going to be interesting to actually see. Because essentially what's going on is that they don't have anything showing up for Phase 5 with the mutants, with X-Men, and this would make sense in terms of the overall, context of the situation if this is true. So what I'm saying in general here is that we already have all these problems with the Fox X-Men transfer to the MCU, them being rebooted and all that stuff, with everything including, the name being controversial apparently and outdated, which I was hoping would just stick to a shitty joke in Dark Phoenix, but now apparently it's a real thing executives believe, to then now Ms. Marvel's storyline changing, which is one thing in and of itself, not the biggest deal, to now the supposed rumor that there will need to be contracts actually being, them being obligated to follow those all the way until 2025. This would make sense in some ways because there's nothing revealed yet for Phase 5 of the MCU, even though they're showing off a whole slate of Phase 5 already in terms of announced projects and everything coming out, but we haven't seen X-Men. So I'm interested to see if this is true. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think this will be true or not? Do you think they still have to follow those contracts? Like I said before, they did have to honor the release of New Mutants, and they did have to honor the release of Dark Phoenix for theaters, so it is very possible that they also have these obligations that they need to follow through on.
Do you think that they're going to call it X-Mutants or X-People?
So I guess whenever X-People or X-Humans or X-Existence of Beings comes out, we'll have to see what it's called, who's involved, and if this is true or not. Supposedly, we might find out more on September 10th at Marvel Studios' D23 panel, but who knows? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content. I appreciate you all very, very much. Have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shway.